High in the frozen silence of the Alps, where no sane army should ever march, a thunder of footsteps echoed through the snow, because one man dared to attempt the impossible. Hannibal Barca, the Carthaginian mastermind, Rome feared more than any living enemy, was leading an army not south through the comfortable plains, but straight over the jagged spine of Europe itself. His mission was madness: invade Rome from the one direction the Romans believed was unassailable. The story explodes into motion as Hannibal's forces, thousands of infantry, elite Numidian cavalry, and towering war elephants, struggled upward along treacherous cliff paths, barely wide enough for a single man. Every step was a gamble with death. Avalanches roared without warning. Local tribes launched ambushes from the shadows. Frostbite gnawed at flesh. Yet Hannibal pressed forward, whispering to his shivering troops that glory was waiting on the other side. Glory and vengeance. Rome had humiliated Carthage in the First Punic War, stripping away land, pride, and power. Hannibal had sworn a blood oath as a boy to destroy Rome. And here in the icy mountains, he was keeping that promise inch by agonizing inch. The climb pushed human limits. Horses slipped and vanished into abyssal drops. Elephants trumpeted in fear as paths crumbled beneath their massive feet. Soldiers tied themselves together with ropes, so if one fell, the others might anchor him. At night, they huddled around meager fires, their breath freezing in midair, telling each other that no Roman army had ever dared such a crossing. And that was exactly why Hannibal would succeed. When a snowstorm buried the trail, Hannibal's men dug through pure ice, carving a route with bare hands and iron tools. When they reached a cliff blocked by a frozen rock slide, Hannibal ordered fires lit to heat the stones, then had vinegar poured over the cracks to shatter the rock. A brutal but brilliant technique that bought the army one more chance to move forward. But the real weapon Hannibal carried wasn't numbers or elephants. It was unpredictability. Rome expected him to attack by sea. They prepared defenses in the south. No one, not even the most paranoid Roman general, believed he would drag an entire army across the roof of the world. And that was the genius of it. After more than 2 weeks battling nature itself, Hannibal's battered forces finally reached the summit. There above the clouds, he pointed south toward the misty Italian plains, stretching endlessly below. According to ancient accounts, he declared, "You are standing on the threshold of Rome." For his men, half frozen, starving, exhausted, it was a moment that transformed suffering into purpose. The descent was no easier. Ice turned the steep paths into death slides. Tribes attacked again, hoping to pick apart the weakened army. But when the Carthaginians finally emerged from the mountains and charged into the fertile fields of northern Italy, the Romans were stunned. Hannibal had done it. He had brought a foreign army, including elephants, straight into Rome's backyard. What followed would shake the ancient world. Lightning-fast victories at the Trebia River, Lake Trasimene, and the legendary slaughter at Cannae. But everything began here, with one insane gamble. One act of defiance against geography, fate, and the Roman Republic itself. Hannibal Barca did not simply cross the Alps. He rewrote the boundaries of what humans thought was possible, turning a frozen mountain range into a gateway for one of the most audacious invasions in history. And yet, even after conquering the impossible, Hannibal understood a brutal truth. Crossing the Alps was not the end of the struggle. It was merely the opening scene of a far greater war. Because now, standing in the rich valleys of northern Italy, his army faced a new enemy: time. Supplies were scarce, and the winter bites still clung to their bones. Hannibal needed momentum, fast. So before the Romans could organize, he unleashed the very strategy that had made him a nightmare during his campaigns in Iberia. Relentless, unpredictable warfare designed to shatter Roman confidence before they could even understand what was happening. He forged alliances with Gallic tribes who despised Rome, turning former raiders into fierce, loyal partners. Hannibal sat among them, sharing food, speaking their language, honoring their leaders, not as a conqueror, but as a brother in arms. The Romans could not fathom it, a foreign general winning the hearts of Italy's northern tribes more effectively than the Republic itself. Each new Gallic warrior who joined Hannibal multiplied his strength and deepened the humiliation of Rome's proud Senate. But Rome, stubborn and unbreakable, answered with force. They sent consul after consul, army after army, determined to stamp out the Carthaginian threat. What they didn't realize was that every Roman response played into Hannibal's hands. He fought them exactly where he wanted, when he wanted, pulling them into traps that turned their discipline into a liability. At the Trebia, he let their hunger and arrogance drive them into icy waters that numbed their limbs. At Lake Trasimene, he used fog and geography to erase an entire Roman army from existence in a single morning. To the tribes of Italy, Hannibal seemed less like a general and more like a storm, violent, unpredictable, and unstoppable. Yet even as his fame spread, the shadow of the Alps followed him. The crossing had cost him countless men and nearly all of his elephants. His army, though fiercely loyal, was smaller than the juggernaut Rome could rebuild again and again. Hannibal's brilliance kept victory alive, but each triumph demanded fresh blood. Blood he could not easily replace, and still he pushed forward. Because the crossing had not just been a march over mountains, it had been a declaration that there was no turning back. Carthage's pride, his father's oath, and the future of the Mediterranean world were all balanced on the knife edge of his ambition. Even in the quiet moments, rare as they were, Hannibal would look south toward Rome, that glittering heart of stone and power, and imagine the shockwave his invasion had unleashed. Senators whispering in panic, generals scrambling to respond. Citizens who had believed Roman soil was sacred and untouchable suddenly realizing it could be pierced. The Alps had been Rome's shield for centuries. Hannibal had shattered that illusion in a single earth-shaking gambit. And now, with Italy trembling beneath his feet, he prepared for the next phase of his campaign. A war not just of armies, but of endurance, cunning, and will. The world had changed the moment his army stepped out of those mountains. Rome could never again assume safety, and Hannibal Barca, forged by oath and hardened by ice, marched on, knowing that history was now watching every move he made.